Have you ever looked at something broken and thought, someone should fix this, and then realized maybe that someone is you? That's where this story begins. Nehemiah wasn't a warrior. He wasn't a prophet standing on a mountaintop. He wasn't even living in Jerusalem. He was a cupbearer, a trusted servant in the palace of the Persian king Artaxerxes I. Now that might sound small, but it wasn't. A cupbearer stood next to the king every day. He tasted the wine before the king drank it. If there was poison, he would know first. It was a position of deep trust. But one day, everything changed. Some travelers arrived from Jerusalem. Nehemiah asked how things were going back home. Their answer was heavy. The walls of Jerusalem were still broken down. The gates were burned. The people were vulnerable, exposed. And when Nehemiah heard that, he didn't rush to fix it. He sat down and wept. He mourned. He fasted. He prayed. Because sometimes the first step in rebuilding something broken isn't action. It's letting your heart break for it. For days he prayed, not a quick prayer, not a polite one, a deep, honest conversation with God. And then he did something bold. He asked the king for permission to leave. Think about that. He was asking to step away from security, comfort, influence, to travel hundreds of miles to a ruined city. And when the king asked him why, Nehemiah didn't hide it. He said, "Send me to the city of my ancestors so I can rebuild it." And something remarkable happened. The king said yes. Not only that, he gave Nehemiah letters for safe passage, timber for construction, military protection. Doors opened. But here's what I love about this story. When Nehemiah arrived in Jerusalem, he didn't make a big speech right away. He went out at night, quietly. He walked around the broken walls. He looked closely at the damage. Vision starts with seeing clearly. Only after he understood the problem did he gather the people. And when he spoke, it wasn't dramatic. It was simple. "You see the trouble we are in. Come, let us rebuild." Not "I will rebuild." Let us rebuild. And something shifted. Families signed up. Goldsmiths, merchants, priests, ordinary people. Each group repaired a section of wall near their own homes. It wasn't glamorous. It was dusty, exhausting work, but it was shared. And whenever something begins to rise, opposition usually rises with it. Local officials mocked them. Even a fox could knock down that wall, they said. Then the threats got serious. So Nehemiah adapted. Half the people worked, half stood guard. Builders carried bricks in one hand and held a weapon in the other. They weren't just building a wall. They were rebuilding dignity, security, hope. And through pressure, criticism, and fear, Nehemiah kept leading. Not by shouting, but by steady courage. He reminded the people why they were building. He made sure the poor weren't exploited during the process. He corrected injustice inside the community before fighting enemies outside it. That's leadership. Not just construction, but restoration. And in just 52 days, the wall was finished. 52. A project that had sat in ruins for generations was rebuilt in less than 2 months. When their enemies saw it, the Bible says they lost their confidence, because they realized the work had been done with the help of God. But here's the quiet power of this story. Nehemiah didn't rebuild the wall alone. He cast vision. He prayed. He planned. He involved everyone. He saw what was broken. He cared deeply. He moved courageously. And he brought people together. That's how cities are rebuilt. That's how families are restored. That's how communities heal. One person who cares enough to pray and is brave enough to act.
So maybe today the walls in your life don't look like stone and gates. Maybe they look like strained relationships, a discouraged community, a dream that feels abandoned. Nehemiah's story reminds us, broken things can rise again. Vision matters. Community matters. Steady faithfulness matters. And sometimes, the person God uses to rebuild is the one who simply says, "Let's begin."